So once again, my name is Stacey, and I'll be guiding you through some basics, and then we're going to answer some questions. So a little bit of history about Company Registers. Company Registers has been running since 2018, if I'm correct, focused on providing users with a digital platform on which to store and maintain their entities' registers. Today, storing entities online is considered the norm in the secretarial and accounting world. But with Company Registers, it's not just normal, it's also very easy. So let's go ahead, and I just want to let you all know that we're going to be taking questions via our WhatsApp chat. So this is to encourage anonymous submissions because even though there's no such thing as a stupid question, sometimes we all get a bit of stage fright. So the WhatsApp number that I'd like you all to add now, if you would like to, is 0. I've put this number in the chat as well. We'll also be taking questions in the chat, but if you prefer to ask over WhatsApp, I will just read your question aloud. I won't mention your name or any identifying factors, and the phone numbers will be deleted after your submission, not stored anywhere in our database and not used for anything. So I'm just going to give you all a few minutes to do that. Okay, cool. If at any point in this webinar I'm talking too fast or you want me to pay closer detail to something that I'm speaking about, just send me a WhatsApp or put it in the chat, and then Carl and I will both attend to the question. Carl is joining me. He's going to answer some questions if I don't have the expertise that he has with the level of experience that he has. So if that's all started, I'm getting some WhatsApps now letting us know that everything is working on the WhatsApp line. That's great. Thanks, guys. Okay, awesome. Let's get started then. So if you can see my screen, you can see we're on the landing page. This is our marketing website. This is most helpful for sharing with your clients. If they want to know what you are using to maintain their registers, they can find everything they need on this website. This website is mycompanyregisters.coza. So if you take a scroll through here, you can see a few disclaimers about how we're not directly connected to CIPC and we don't offer CIPC services. We have a little blurb about what we do. I mean, this is just, you've all seen this before, and some really nice testimonials. We've got our tab about our features, so you can see exactly what I like to refer to this table quite a lot. This is quite handy. Pricing, as you can see here, FAQs, our support channel, our knowledge base. You can see quite a few tutorials here. These are also linked throughout the program at the relevant places. We've got some webinars here. This webinar is going to replace these two webinars because it's more late, it's more recent. And our support ticket form as well. We also have our news section where I post updates about anything that we've added to the program. You can see here I've got the two for the training webinars and the import from Segway. All of these are quite handy to refer to. So if you want to know what's happening, you just come to this news tab. And then we have our contact page as well. As you can see, this is where you can get a hold of us. Okay, great. I think let's go ahead and log in. Can you still see my login screen? Cool, awesome. As you can see, our terms of use is available on this page as well. If you need to refer to that at any point, that'll take you through. This is available at all times throughout the whole program. So once we've logged in, you can see that we're on our homepage, My Companies. Let's go through the different sections that we have here. I'm just going to take you through some of the buttons and what they mean since this is for brand new users. So this help button here should take you to our web help, which is, you can find some of the tutorials here. It also has some documentation on interpretations for regulations. As you can see under this section, guide, this is also linked throughout the program at relevant times. So that's our little help button. For my entities, this is where you're going to switch between companies and CCs, trusts, and if you're a shared access user, this is where you'll find any entities that have been shared with you under shared access. Today, we are just going to be working with a company, but a PTY Limited, but most of the processes I'm going to go through are exactly the same for a CC and a trust. So for my tasks, this is our master list for tasks. And as you can see here, I'll come back to this when I actually add a task. And you can see this is where we can find all of our annual returns if there are any due. You also get email reminders about this on here, as well as our minutes and resolutions. This is the master templates that you use throughout the rest of the program. So you can add your own and you can edit what is already here. What else? We have my lists. This is our master list for accounting and auditors, company secretaries, registered office, and securities classes, which is most important. I'm going to be coming back to this in a little while when we get back to the securities register. Under search, you can do a search throughout all of the directors and sec holders and members and trustees and beneficiaries that you add throughout your use of the program. So every time that you add a director or a securities holder, they get saved to the database and you can use those details on another entity and just copy them across. It saves you a lot of time. I'll be demonstrating that as well once we get into the actual meat of it. What else? We've got our terms of use again. We've got our buy premium. This is our premium package, which includes features for customizing the look of your registers, but we'll discuss this further when we talk about pricing and the different pricing options and that kind of thing. And then our support button goes back to our main website with all of the tutorials, the ticket, and our contact details. So let's go back to my companies and move on to the left side of our screen under my profile. So under my details, this is where you input your firm name and your billing address. This displays on all of your invoices and statements. The email address in this field is used for the automatic emails. So this would be your annual return reminders, your expiring entity reminders. Those will all go to this email address and any email address that you put in the CC box. This is also the email address boxes that I use to send out my mail updates. So if you have additional users, they don't receive the email updates, but these two will. This active box is an automatic field. It'll tick if you ever make a payment on the website and it just marks you as an active user. So if we go to my password, this is where you can reset your password if you need to. We also have this on the login screen. So this is where under my users, this is where you can add or remove any additional users. There's a tutorial for this process on our support page. I won't go through it right now, but I might revisit that when we talk about shared access a bit later. So now if we go onto my account, this is where you find your payment history and where you can download any invoices at any time. The cool part is that this is just a table. So if you need to extract this history for any reason, if you just select all of these and then you did a copy and paste into Excel, it would come out just like that beautifully. It's just a cool little hack that you can use pretty much across the whole program if you ever want to export anything and we don't have an export button, which is rare. We usually have an export button for everything. You can just copy and paste the whole table into Excel. So that's a bit handy. You can see that I have one credit available here. This is going to be used up automatically when I import my company in a few minutes. Let's go on to my fees due. This is where you'll make any payments and view any expiring entities. If you have any entities that are expiring, they'll come up in this box here, and then you can tick them if you want them to be paid for, or you can untick them if you don't wish to pay for them. As you can see, there's a message here that reads, please delete any unwanted entities before payment so that unwanted entities are not renewed. This is so you don't renew any entities that you don't perform work on. Sorry. But even if you do delete an entity, you can find it under deleted entities, which we'll take a look at now. So when you're making payment, you can choose to pay as an entity expires, or you can purchase credits ahead of time. To purchase credits, you'll just select the number of credits that you want to buy. Let's say we wanted to buy 5, which will be equal to the number of companies that you would be adding or renewing, and continue to payment. So once we've added the number of companies that we want to add or renew, then we click Pay Now, and it'll bring you to the screen where you can either pay with PayFast and you'll be redirected to the PayFast form, or you can do an EFT to these banking details. If you do choose to pay with EFT, you just need to send a proof of payment to support@companyregisters.coza so that we can process it as soon as possible. So when you do have credits, they will show under my account as total credits available. And as we mentioned before, you can see that I have 1. This will automatically apply whenever you add a new entity or whenever an entity reaches its expiration date. That's when these credits get used up. Okay. So if we go back, this also links to the support page. It's the exact same as that button. Under My Stats, you just get a list of active entities. We don't have as many reports here for My Stats, but if you can think of any kind of report that you would like to see, you can always send that idea through to us and we can see what we can implement. So moving on to deleted entities. This is a little bit more of a complicated one. Let me actually go ahead and delete one of these awesome demos just so I have something under there. So you can see I've deleted that awesome demo. If I go to my deleted entities, I've got that awesome demo trust here. So this is where any deleted entity will stay. You can renew these at any time, but in order to renew, you need to pay for all the years the deleted entity was stored. So say, for example, I deleted this entity in 2023, July of 2023, and I want to renew it now in July of 2025. So I need to pay the storage fee for July 2023 up till to July 2024 because that covers a year of storage. And then to bring the expiration date up to 2025, I would need to pay another year of storage fee. And then now we're at July 2025, but I need to maintain the register for up until 2026. So unfortunately, I'd need to pay another year of storage fees. If you don't have a lot of historical information in this deleted entity, you can always choose to just recreate the entity on your profile instead and work on it from there. You just won't get any of the historical information that you had in the deleted entity. Okay, I'm just going to check my phone and see if anybody has asked any questions. Okay, cool. We're all still good there. Great. Now that we've gone through all of these buttons and all of these pages, let's go ahead and take a look at the awesome demos that we have. These are available when you first sign up, and they're available for 30 days from sign up. You can use them to play around and figure out if CompanyRegisters is going to work for you, and these are entirely free. So for 30 days, free access to every feature. And these demos include some basic information so that you can see what the system stores for you. So in this demo, I am going to be adding a new company rather than going through the awesome demo. You should delete these demo entities when you're finished using them so that they don't show up under your My Fees Due list and so that they're not included in your annual returns email reminders. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one as well. But don't worry, nothing ever really gets deleted. It's also under deleted entities, as you can see here. And it even tells me the expiration date and the deletion date. And then obviously you can restore it if you want to from this page. Okay, let's go back to my companies and we're going to go ahead and add our own company. So let me tell you about some naming conventions when doing this CIPC data import. This data comes straight from BizPortal. So what happens when you click this button, it takes whatever search terms you've put in here, and it puts them into BizPortal and it says search for this. BizPortal has it removes some characters in the search terms. So if we have, I saw this for an example the other day, I saw this company name, Als not als. I think that's how you say that. So in this company name, you can see that there are apostrophes and hyphens. So this is the registered company name. But if I click Get CIPC Data, unfortunately, it's actually not going to return anything because BizPortal is removing the apostrophes and removing this hyphen, and it's going to come back with no records because, as you can see, the registered name includes those hyphens and those apostrophes, but BizPortal removes them when you search on them. So in that case, you just need to try and pick some unique search terms. So in that example, I ended up going from this, als not als. I only searched on that. And if I click CIPC Data now, it's going to be able to search on that term properly, and it's going to return, I think it returns the first 200 records. So let's just take a look and see. Yes, you can see it here. So then in that case, I'd be able to import it from there. So let's go back. Another thing I need to mention, when you do search on a company name, you must not include Pty Limited or CC or close corporation or trust in the actual name. So if I search like this, that's not going to return anything. I must keep this out. And the same goes for that or close corporation or trust, like I mentioned. So try to keep those out of your search terms. Okay, so now that you know what to include in your search terms and what not to include, let's import our own company, Creative Compliance Solutions. So I'm just going to click this button and it should return our company. Great. There you can see it's got our name, our registration number, and our status. So now I'm going to click this pencil icon that says Retrieve CIPC Data for Creative Compliance Solutions. And that should bring through some information for us that I can view before I save it to company and before I pay for it. Great. You can see it brought through the name, registration number, status, enterprise number, enterprise name, all of these details, my addresses. I can also view the directors that are brought in, annual return history, enterprise history, and any other details. So I can see all of this before I even save it to the company or before I pay for it. So if I'm happy with what I have, I'm just going to click Save to Company. And as you can see, it's here. So normally, this entity would be locked if I hadn't paid for it already. If I hadn't already paid for it and I hadn't got any credits on my account, there would be a little button here that says Pay Now, and I would be able to follow the steps I mentioned before to pay for this entity and unlock it. But I had that credit on my account that automatically got used up when I imported this company, and now it's free for me to enter and edit to my heart's desire. So let's go ahead and see what we managed to import. As we just saw before, we got a lot of details. We can fill these in if we need to. These are all optional. That's just a link to other entities, and this is an optional billing code. I have seen some people use this to label their staff members. So if I had a staff member that was working with me, I would put their name in here and it would show up. Let me show you. I must tick my audit requirements first. So now if I go back here, you can see the bill code says Jeremy. If I had a staff member, that's just how I've seen some people use that, which is perfectly fine. What else? You would need to tick your audit requirements, your AGM. What else do we have? All of these don't come from BizPortal, so you need to put those in. Contact details. Okay, cool. This report includes decimals. This is for if any of your share transactions include decimals. So if someone paid 1,500 Rand and 60 cents, you would tick that to include that 60 cents. The securities certificate style, I'll show you this when we look at security certificates, and I'll show you what the two different styles look like. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as default. And for share access, this is where you'll be able to see who you've shared access to this entity with. I'll go through this after the securities register and I'll show you how you can share access because there are some things I want to mention about that, some cool features. So from here, let's just save this. It's always a good habit to save it after you look at it. So now we're under status. You can see that I just have all of these boxes that I can tick. I'm going to tick imported from CIPC just for my own sake, and you can see that it has the notes there that tell me when it was imported and the contact details. Pretty self-explanatory. So let me go ahead and just show you what tasks looks like. So I've got this little button here with the question mark, and if I click on this, it takes me to that master list that I showed you earlier with the resolutions and the meetings, the minutes. So if I add a director's appointment, a director's resolution, for example, then I can update the status and I can change the date completed. I can look at the form or document, and this should bring in my entity name, my entity's registration number, the names of the directors. Those are all brought in when you add that resolution or minutes as a task. So let's just save that for now. Let's continue on to details. We already went here. Annual returns. So this is the annual return history. This is brought in from BizPortal. We also have this button to get the latest annual return data. So if you have done an annual return after the date that you've imported, you can click this button and it's going to do the same BizPortal search. It's just only going to bring in the latest annual return data. Under registered office, you can add a new registered office. This also pulls from this master list that I mentioned earlier. So any registered offices that you add over here, you can bring them in, copy from the list, but I haven't added any yet. Location of records, you can add these, I think. Yeah, no, that's not a master list, but obviously you can add these as well. You can bring in the resolutions, minutes, or documents. This comes from this list, this master list as well, but you can also upload your own files. I've seen people use this in quite an interesting way where they will share access to this entity with their clients and they'll upload their tax certificates, their COIDA documents, their IDs, under other uploaded files. And then the clients can come and access those and download them whenever they need to. So the document management properties are quite useful. So let's move on. Offices, this is where you add your auditors, public offices, or company secretaries. This also comes from these master lists. So anytime you add, if I added one here, it would save to this master list and I would be able to use it across the rest of the system. Okay, this should, yeah, sorry. Yeah, this, as you can see, these directed details were brought in with the BizPortal import. It was just getting a bit mixed up there because I hadn't saved it properly. So you can see it brought in these two directors and their appointments. And I can see those are just copying the records. If I open it up, I can upload their ID document. I can add the rest of their details. And if I do upload their ID document, I just want to show you, for example, then I can view that and download it as well. So let's just remove that. Okay, okay. I just need to mention that the dates of appointment don't come through in the BizPortal import. So under these appointments here, you do just need to edit that record and add the effective date. I'm going to make the both of the dates. I'm just going to make them both the incorporation date. Or I'll just make Carl the incorporation date for now. Yeah. Let's do this Carol as well. And when it comes to adding new directors, if you don't redo the whole import, if you want to add a new director, you add the director first via here. Let's just do example person name. I'm just going to leave all of that blank. So I add the director. You can see that it's ticked as inactive because it got a cross through it. That's because I haven't done the appointment yet. So I need to add the director and then I do the appointment. So I save, and now you see it's automatically ticked it as active because it now has an appointment. That's not going to be relevant for my example, so I just want to take those out. But just keep it in your mind, add the director, and then do the appointment, and then it'll all come up properly. So if we go through to CIPC History, this is just what we got from the BizPortal import. You can do the same thing here where you bring in the latest information from BizPortal, same as with the annual returns. And you can take this as completed if you need to. Okay. Okay, I just want to see if I'm getting any WhatsApp questions or any questions in the chat. And then we're going to move on to doing the securities register. I have one question here asking if we can search on registration number or just name. So currently we only search on the company name, but we could add features to search on the registration number if that's something that you think would be helpful to you. So just let me know, pop me an email, and we can look into that. It would be relatively simple. Okay, let's move on to our securities register. So when it comes to building securities register, this information is not stored on BizPortal, so obviously it won't come through in the import. This is something that you do have to do manually, but we make it as simple as possible. So it's pretty step by step. You add the classes, you add the authorized, you do the allotments or transfers, and then you do the beneficial ownership. So let's go ahead and get started. Once you add a class, as I mentioned before, it's all saved here under sec classes. So you can either go back here at any point and add any classes that you want to, and then you can use these across the whole system, or you can add them straight from here. So if I go add new securities class, you can see that we have these 3 from the master list in our drop down, but I can also click add and I can add a new master class from here. So I'm going to do B ordinary shares. So let's just select this B ordinary shares for our securities class. You can add any notes that you like on rights or preferences or restrictions. This gets quite handy when you're doing beneficial ownership with multiple share classes on one entity. Adding the rights and restrictions in the notes is helpful because you'll need to submit beneficial ownership for the class of shares that has the most rights. That's our interpretation of the CIPC guidelines when it comes to multiple share classes and their beneficial ownership information. So you can see that we've got our share class here. Now let's use this share class. Let's add some authorized securities. So we can just go step 1, step 2, step 3, etc., etc. Let's add our authorized securities. You can see it's selected from the drop-down box already. I'm going to make the date created the incorporation date, which is handy. I can just select this right here, and I'm going to make it 1,000 at 1 rand each. Just make it easy. Again, you can add any notes you need to over here. You can also print this register from this page. It won't have any allotments or transfers on it though. But if you have multiple share classes, again, you can print the allotments and transfers for those share classes under classes. So we've added our authorized securities. We've got 1,000 of them over there at a nominal amount of R1. So now to do any allotments or transfers, we first need to add our securities holder. So you can do that from the screen as you're doing the allotment and transfer, or you can first add them under sec holders. In my examples, I'm going to do an allotment and add Carl as a sec holder prior to the allotment. And when I do a transfer, I'll add Carol as we do the transfer. So let's go to sec holders and let's do add new sec holder. This is where all of those details that get saved across the system come in very handy because we can do the copy from search and we already have Carl's details here as a director. So if I click this little tick box here, it's going to bring across his name, his first names, his ID number. The cool part about this is it takes the first 6 digits of your ID number and it inputs it into the date of birth for individuals. So it just reduces the amount of time you have to spend typing in. So let's just put these down. And then this information is all relevant for beneficial ownership. So I'm just going to mark it as not applicable for now. So you see, we have Carl added as a securities holder now. You can see these dates, sec holder from and sec holder to, are not filled in yet. That's because we haven't done any transfers or allotments to Carl. So let's go ahead and do an allotment. I'm going to go back to allotments. I'm going to click add new allotment and I'm going to do the date of allotment. I'm going to make this the 15th of April, 2018. You can add the classification of the transaction over there. The securities class ID is over there. And now this securities holder, I've just clicked on the field. It's obviously going to bring in anything I've added under sec holders. And I'm going to click the little tick box again. And if you want the system to automatically create the share certificate, you can just leave this box blank. But if you don't want it to do that, you can put in any number you like and it won't automatically create the certificate. So I'm going to say that Carl got all 1,000 shares and he paid R1,000. Obviously, if you have payable otherwise than cash, you can put that in here as well. And I'm just going to click save. You can see since I left that field blank, it's telling me that a new certificate has been added and the number is 1. So let's take a look at that certificate quickly. If I go down to certificates, you can see here I can filter by inactive or active. And if I had multiple share classes, I would filter by that as well. You can see the date issued, the date cancelled. Obviously, it hasn't been cancelled, so there's nothing filled in there. And all of these. So if you're in a position where at some point you've been adding these all numbers manually, and let's say you added this wrong. So let's say that instead of 1,000 shares, he actually bought 900 shares and paid R900. But now that reflects there, but on my certificate it still says 1,000 certificated securities because that certificate was already created. The great part is you can just change that. It's all manual. Just change the number of securities and save. And then it matches up. You can also print the security certificate from here. This is where I'll show you the 2 different styles we have. So here you get the certificate number, number of securities, all of this information, and then the places for signatures. Let me show you the other style. If you remember, we go to details, options, and we select the security certificate style from this drop down. I'm going to select style 1 and I'm going to save. And then I'm going to go back to certificates and I'm going to print the security certificate again just to show you what the second style looks like. There we go. So you can just see the 2 different styles of security certificate. You can choose whichever one you prefer. Great. Okay, I'm just going to change that back because I can. So let's go back to the allotment, change it back to 1,000 shares for R1,000. and I'm going to save. So now that we've done an allotment, let's do a transfer. So remember I said you can either add a securities holder here under add new sec holder, or you can add it as you do an allotment or a transfer. If you're doing allotments and transfers for a large number of people, a lot of transactions, I would recommend adding all of the securities holders first over here so that you type out as much as you need to, and then you can just minimize the amount of time you spend typing when you actually do the allotments and transfers. So when we do this transfer, I'm going to add the securities holder as I do the transfer. So I just click add new transfer. I'm going to do the transfer date, which is going to be the 15th of April 2019. I can select the classification here, the securities class ID. Now I'm going to select transfer from, and I'll choose call. And the number of securities I'm going to transfer is going to be 500. And the consideration is going to be 500 Rand. And this is handy because you can see it automatically calculated the securities transfer tax for us. You can also tick it if it's exempt from transfer tax. I'm just going to leave it unticked for now. And we're going to do transfer to. This is where I can add the new securities holder straight from the screen. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to add here Robinson. Oh wait, no, she's also on the system. So I can do another copy from search and I can bring in Carol's details because she's on the system as well. I bring her in. I add in anything I need for beneficial ownership and I click save. And now she comes up under here and I can select and she comes up in there. You can add the old certificate number for historical information if you want to. And again, if you want the certificate to generate, you can leave this blank. You can add any notes or restrictions and you can upload the signed form. So let's just save. And then one thing I want to show you, remember how under sec holders, the sec holder from and sec holder to dates were blank. Now that they have transactions, these get filled in automatically. So you can see the from date is the same as Carl's first allotment, and the from date for Carol is the same as her transfer. If I want to look at the account of a securities holder, I can just click this little button here that says View Account in Certificates, and I can see all of their history, all of those certificates, all in one place. The same goes for Carol. If I click View Account, I can see the transfer, I can print the account, etc. So for transfers, the forms aren't getting generated automatically. So I need to click this Create Security Certificate over here. I can add any of the factors I want to add. The notes and restrictions have been filled in automatically according to the details we put in, the date issued. You can choose who the signatories are going to be over here. I'm just going to leave it as authorized, date cancelled, upload the signed certificate, and then just click save. And if I go back to certificates, now Carol's certificate is here too for the transfer. And let's take a look at this one too. Securities transferred from, previous certificate number, if applicable. You get the idea. Okay, let's take a look at the current beneficial ownership structure with just these two natural persons. So you can see here, it's just Carl and Carol. They both hold securities. They're both natural persons, so they both have beneficial ownership. They each have 500 securities. And if I click print on the organogram, you can just see it simply pulls out both of them as having 50% beneficial ownership. Same goes for this interest register. This is where you get all of the details. So this doesn't show on the organogram, but it does show on the interest register, direct securities holdings for both of them. There. Okay. So when it comes to beneficial ownership, let's go and look at an example where we have a company holding shares, and then that company needs to have their beneficial owners listed. So for that, I'm going to go to all owners, and since no, that doesn't apply. I'm just going to add company A as a SEC holder. Let's do that from here. So this will not be a natural person. So it's not going to be a beneficial owner. It's a company, so it cannot be a beneficial owner. And we're going to make this Company A, Pty Limited. The first names is not applicable because it's for natural persons only. South African citizen is not applicable. And this ID/passport number is where you're going to put in the registration number if you are adding a company. And you can upload anything you need. You can do the addresses and the phone numbers if you need to. So I'm just going to save this. So you can see that Company A has been added here. Both of these dates are not filled in because they don't have any transfers or allotments. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer some of Carl's shares to this company. We're going to do another transfer. So this transfer date is going to be the 15th of April, 2020. And I'm going to transfer from Carl. I'm going to transfer 250 shares for 250 Rand. And I'm going to transfer it to the company I just added, Company A. And again, I can add any of these details if I want to. So I'm just going to click Save. And you can see that now Company A has some shares. And if I go back to SEC holders, you can see the SEC holder from date has been filled in with the same date of the transfer. And again, I can view the account from here if I want to. And you can see who transferred the shares and any certificates. So if I go back to beneficial ownership now, you'll see that the company record automatically has a subholder button because it's not a beneficial ownership. So it's not a beneficial owner. So we need to get to beneficial ownership. So it's going to need subholders. So let's go ahead and add those subholders. When I'm adding subholders that don't hold direct shares in the parent company, I add them under all owners. So in this case, I'm going to be adding another company and a person. So for this other company, they are not going to be securities holder because they don't directly hold the securities that we have authorized. They are going to hold securities in Company B. And they're not going to be a beneficial owner either because they're a company. So let's go ahead and add this one now. This is not applicable. That's not applicable. Save. I'm also going to add my beneficial owner from here. So this beneficial owner, as a natural person, they're not going to be a securities holder because they don't hold any of the securities that we have issued, but they are going to be a beneficial owner because they're a natural person. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. And all of these fields will be applicable now because it is a person. I just want to show you that it's now picked up the birthday after I add this ID number. So now you all know when to wish me happy birthday. I'm just going to tick these as not applicable. And you can see that these haven't been filled in yet either. That's fine. Save. Those are also automatic. So now if I look at beneficial ownership, you'll see neither of the two records that I added are here. That's because I need to add them as subholders. We just added those records for ease of use when I bring across those details. So now I'm going to add a subholder. Securities class stays as it is. Securities holder is going to be Company A that holds securities in creative compliance. And the subholder I'm going to choose from our list of all owners, and it's going to be Company B. I'm going to set it at level 1 of ownership. I'll explain this when I have a few more levels so you can see the difference. And I'm going to give it 100%, no, yeah, 100% ownership. So now you can see under Company A, we have Company B at 100% ownership. Let's take a look at this organogram now. And you can see it just comes out very simply with the percentages, as you can see. Let's go ahead and get to the natural person because this is not far enough. We need to go further to find the natural person that holds shares in company B. And we did add that. That was going to be me. So let's add another subholder. You can see the securities holder stays the same. The subholder is going to be this person that we added. And now the only thing that changes is this level is now going to be level 2. And I'm going to give myself 100% ownership in company B. So level 2 is just going, it basically just controls the indents of the text fields. So if I save this now, you can see that this is indented 2 spaces while this was indented 1. So you can see that it says that I am a subholder of company B. If I have multiple, if I had another company, I would just drag and drop as I need to, just to get the right order. So let's take a look at the organogram now. You can see that it goes all the way down. Level 0, level 1, 0, 2. Level 2, sorry. And you can see I have 100% ownership. I don't know if Carl wants to explain these percentages a bit more, just in relation to why it shows up like this. Yeah, so Carl mentions that these are the effective ownership percentages and that they must add up to 100% at the bottom, which as we can see, they are doing so. Cool. So that's our beneficial ownership. But now let's talk about what if a securities holder has transferred all of their shares and they have none left? How does that affect beneficial ownership and should they still display as a beneficial owner? So the answer is no, they should not display as a beneficial owner in the organogram, but they should still be part of the interest register for historical information. So let's go through and transfer all of Carl's shares. So I'm going to do another transfer to company A. Let's make this 15/04/2021. And let's transfer from Carl. Let's do the remaining 250 securities for 250 Rand. And let's transfer them to company A. And let's just save. So now, if we go to look at SEC holders, we can see that the SEC holder to date has also been automatically filled in on the same date as he transferred all of his shares to company A. So now if I look at his account, you can see it shows he had 1,000, transferred 500, transferred 250, transferred another 250, and now he doesn't have any left. And then obviously you should go ahead and cancel the share certificate as well, which is, well, let me make the share certificate for these 2 transfers first. I just click and save, and I just click and I save. And then you go back to certificates if you want to cancel a share certificate. Yeah. So then to cancel that, I just go in here and I fill in the date canceled. We'll make that just that date. And now he's not active anymore and he'll show under inactive. So now that Carl doesn't have any securities left, we don't want him to print on the organogram anymore. You can see that now this is showing up as blank. He's still going to be here because we still need these ticked for historical information. But if I print the organogram, he doesn't show up because he doesn't have any shares. And here the effective ownership adds up to 100% as it should. So if we've got this doesn't show Carl, but the interest register does. This shows his details and the date he was a beneficial ownership and the date he ceased to be a beneficial owner. The history of securities is not on this screen and in this report because when you upload to CIPC, if I show you here, I refer back to my table, you upload the securities register as well. So that's these allotments and transfers, if I can print them both. In the allotments and transfers, you can see the history where he had the shares and he transferred them away. So we don't need that to come up under here because it's going to be in the other documents that you submit. So he's not in the organogram, but he is in the beneficial interest register and you still have his history. So that's what CIPC wants. Yeah, so that's how you remove a beneficial owner. Like he still shows up on the screen, but he won't print. Okay, let's take a quick break to see if I have any questions. Okay, great. I don't have any questions coming through just yet. So now that we've gone through all of these share registers, let me talk a little bit about shared access and adding new users. So we're going to go away from maintaining a register and move towards maintaining your own profile. So if I want to add a new user, I obviously go to my entities, my companies. This is our homepage. This is where we do everything. I go to my users and I click add new user. From here, I add their name and their last name and their email address. I won't tick them as an administrator. I don't really think this gives many different, I think this might be an old feature that we need to remove. But I've added the email address. This email address is important because this is where the email for adding their profile gets sent. So if I click save, you can see it comes up on this list. So they should receive an email that has a link to the profile. And what that does is it takes them to the sign up where they'll add the email address that you used and they'll create their password, they'll click save, and they'll be a part of this profile now and they'll be able to access all of these entities. With the additional users, there are no access restrictions. So any user that you add will be able to see everything that you can see and do everything that you can do. If you are in a position where you don't want your users to be able to do everything you can do, you can use shared access in that case, but it's not exactly what it was intended for. We haven't really had any clients that have requested those features for additional users, so we haven't added them. But now that we have more people joining, if those access restrictions would be useful, then just pop us an email and we'll look into it. But for shared access, this is where it gets quite cool. So if I want to share access to creative compliance, let's say that Carl, as a director, wants to see what I am adding and maintaining. So I'll enter there and I'll click share access. And it says you can share access to this entity by adding the login email address of the user to this list. So I'm going to add user and I'm going to add email address carl1 at itmates.co.za. And I can choose whether or not to notify them by email. In this case, I'm going to choose yes, and I'm going to click save. Email sent successfully. So if I look at the email that they should get sent, we'll see it now. Now it's only showing the email. But you can see that it says visit the company, use your email, set up your password. Once logged in, this is what your shared access user will see. Cool. So that's shared access. With shared access, a lot of clients don't. I've had a couple of people asking if the person you shared access with will see any of your details. As you can see, I mean, you'll be able to see your own details, obviously. Let me just show you. So this whole screen, they can see this, but that's it. They only have access to this entity. They won't be able to see your firm name, your email address, anything like that. This is the only thing that they'll see. And under my details on their profile, they'll have their own details. Okay, let's check the chat and the WhatsApp to see if we have any questions.
Sorry, Stacey, did you say there was a question?
Yes, there's a question in the chat that asks, is the allotments and transfers required for all companies?
I would say yes, because when you've got a company, the first thing a company does is it issues shares. So that's an allotment, right? So shares have to be allotted for the company to start operating. And then the transfers, well, that's only if ownership changes, then you would have share transfers.
Okay. I hope that made sense. Just pop another question in the chat if we misinterpreted or anything like that. I'm just going to give everyone a couple minutes just to ask any questions, and then I'll start talking. We're pretty much wrapping up, so I want to talk about any future features that we have, and then I want to move on. Okay, cool. So we don't have any more questions coming in. So let's talk about our future features. What do we have in store next? So we're always looking to improve company registers as much as we can. We always take user requests for features, and there are quite a few features that we've implemented over the years that have been suggestions from our users. We're brainstorming a few new features in the background. We would like to implement a simple tasks and reminders system, much like the annual return reminders and the expiring entity reminders. We would just have a simple kind of to-do list kind of thing where you would add a, if I, for example, have an ID that I need to get certified before a certain date, I would go and add that as a task called Certify ID. I would add a due date. I would assign it to a staff member, and then that staff member would get email reminders before that due date telling them what it is they need to do. So this is handy for something like we had a client who's going to use this for their client's tax certificates. They are storing under the entity that the client has access to, and they have their tax certificates stored under other uploaded files. And they want email reminders that will tell them when that certificate is going to expire. So that's the goal that we have with that feature. We also want to add, much like if I show you over here, for the annual returns and the CIPC history, you can see that we have these buttons here, like this one. We would like to add this under this director screen as well to bring in the latest director changes from CIPC. So we would have another button that just says import latest director changes. That's another thing that we are looking into. Beneficial ownership for trusts is still in the works. Since that's not linked directly to the CIPC, we're having to do other research on that, and that's taking a bit of time because it's not the same as for CCs and companies, but it's taking a bit longer, but it's still definitely coming. Um, and then just redoing some of the training material. For example, like I mentioned earlier, this webinar is going to replace the older webinars, and hopefully we'll be doing more webinars in the future. I'll be uploading smaller snippets for specific features that need extra training. Yeah, and we're always keen to add new features. So if you have any suggestions, you can always send us an email or you can call us and let us know. Yeah. So you can always reach us on email, support@CompanyRegisters. You can submit a support ticket on our mycompanyregisters.coza/support, or you can call us on our cell at the number on the screen. I'll probably keep this part out of the YouTube recording so I don't get random phone calls. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything. If anybody has any other questions, they can just pop me a WhatsApp now quickly. I've got a couple of questions here. I've got someone asking, will we be able to submit beneficial ownership directly from company registers to CIPC? So this is not available to us, unfortunately, because the CIPC doesn't actually provide a way for us to interface in the background with the software. With other programs that say that they interface with CIPC, what happens with them is they actually have a team of people who are submitting the actual beneficial ownership for you. So when you submit to CIPC, it's an actual person that receives that information. They log in and they submit it to CIPC because CIPC doesn't let us interface directly with them. I'll keep my screen up for that. So yeah, unfortunately, we can't submit directly from company registers to CIPC for beneficial ownership or for annual returns, that kind of thing. I've got someone asking, when you change any info of the director, will it pull through to all the companies where it is connected on? That is a good point, but no, if we implement that feature where it pulls in the latest director changes, that will be specific to that entity. If it is something like their phone number has changed or their address has changed. If you go to, let me go back to my screen because,
Stace, sorry, let me just say on that score, it would be very dangerous for us to update all records or all the companies of which that person is a director, because those details have not been updated at CIPC. It's not linked at CIPC where those companies are linked together. So every company is dealt with individually as an entity on its own, and those details have to be updated at CIPC for each of those companies.
mm, mm,
Okay. You can always look up and see, well, what are they a director of? It's in that list that you're going to show now.
yeah.
So you know which ones to go and change, but no, we don't just update all the registers.
So if I change the address on Carl William here, if I change it here on the actual director record, oh, it doesn't go straight to the record. It goes to where he is a director. So if his address changes, you need to change it throughout all the entities on which he's a director, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So we made it to an hour and 15 minutes. That's not bad. So then I think I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you so much for participating. I really appreciate it, and I hope that we'll see you again at the next one. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us on the WhatsApp line or our email at support@companyregisters.coza. Yeah, thanks again. Have a great day further, and thanks for joining. Bye, everyone.